13. Asterisk HB 2602 by Johnson G. SB 2646 by Kyle. Employees, Employers, amends TCA Title 8, Chapter 23, Title 12, Chapter 4, Part 4 and Title 50, Chapter 2. As introduced, increases the hourly minimum wage to $20, or the federal minimum wage established pursuant to the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, whichever rate is greater.
Okay, my name
Testimony, and then we'll have some Q&A after that.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Jones. I work at the University of Memphis. I have been there for 22 years. I am a member of the United Campus Workers Local 3865. And I'm here today to ask for support on this bill and the raises of minimum wages. $7.25 is not enough. Working families are struggling to pay their bills. Rent's gone up, the light bill's gone up, everything's gone up but the minimum wages. Please support working families in Tennessee by passing this bill.
Thank you. And do we have any questions for Ms. Jones? Anyone? Oh, Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for traveling all the way up to give your testimony. I know you had to take time out of your schedule and away from your job and everything to be here, but we greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And thank you for listening.
Did you also have John Scheffner on the list?
We did not. No. Do we have anybody else? Okay. Okay, we're going to go back into session. Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Okay, I'm bringing you House Bill 2602 because I believe in a living wage. This bill will raise the minimum wage in our state to $20 an hour. As of now, the minimum wage in Tennessee is $7.25. We use the federal minimum wage as we discussed earlier, which is the lowest possible amount a state can mandate per federal law. This has been the lowest minimum wage since 2009, meaning Tennessee has not seen an increase in over 13 years. Tennessee remains one of the top states in percentages of minimum wage workers. The average person making minimum wage is 35 years old. And a lot of people will say that with minimum wage workers, they're teenagers. There are more 55-year-old and over folks making minimum wage than there are teenagers making minimum wage. There's no time more dire for an increase in minimum wage as prices are skyrocketing everywhere you shop. Rent and other services are increasing in order to afford their supply. As a matter of fact, in Knoxville this year, we had folks on fixed incomes have their rent doubled. It went from $800 in several complexes in my district to $1,600, which is untenable for folks, especially those on a fixed income. Increasing our minimum wage also reduces inequality, as people of color, as well as anyone who is unable to finish high school or enroll in college, have to take minimum wage jobs, therefore impoverishing them and forcing them to enroll in government-provided programs. We know that there are multi-billion-dollar corporations in Tennessee who are employing people at a wage where, with working full-time at the wage that they receive, they still qualify for SNAP benefits and those type things. So what we are doing is sending it backwards. But I want you all to look at there's a really cool tool, and for each one of you in each of your counties, it's an MIT living wage study. And you can go and look at Campbell County and see what a living wage is in Campbell County. And it breaks down why. The food costs, transportation, housing, all of those things. It is the neatest tool to get a picture of your county in Tennessee. But overall average for Tennessee, it's $20 an hour is what a living wage is for one person in Tennessee. It goes up to $29 for one person with one child. We know that childcare prices are expensive, and that causes a great increase. A lot of times people want to say that it causes a problem with prices. What we're seeing now, inflation, is greedflation. It's from companies that are price gouging folks and making more in profits than they ever have before. We are now making in the trillions in profits, but not raising the wage of the lowers. Somebody mentioned $40 an hour, I think back in the 30s. Well, based on increase right now, we'd be at $40 an hour based on the cost of living since then. So we're talking about half of what cost of living increase since that first initial minimum wage would be. The power of that wage would be at $40 per hour right now. So the reality is that people today cannot live on a minimum wage job. Some places are paying higher, that's true. But what we know is when the middle class and working families in Tennessee have more money in their pockets to spend, then everybody's business is lifted up. That's what boosts our economy. 1 million people shopping at Target or mom and pop shops at home does more for the economy than 1,000 people shopping at Tiffany's. So the reality is when people have more money in their pockets to spend, that boosts the economy for all of us. And right now, Tennesseans are struggling to keep afloat, and we have to raise that wage. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. And I want to go back to what had happened on Mr. Schaffner. He had gotten on the list, and then the bill got rolled, and we didn't get it carried over. So we do want to hear from him today. I'm sorry. We've made an error there. We should have rolled it over when the bill rolled over. So I apologize. And so we're going to go out of session, and we're going to hear from John Schaffner. And you please give your name and who you're with, please.
The on-off.
There it is. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate you looking into that error. My name is John Schaffner. I'm a professor of political economy at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and I'm also a 20-year member of United's Campus Workers. I'm speaking in favor of this bill. The federal minimum wage, to which Tennessee holds and has not changed since 2009, keeps families and individuals in poverty. That $7.25 an hour wage means those earning this amount make $290 in a 40-hour week, which translates to $15,080 a year. Importantly, this wage does not even bring families out of the too low federally defined poverty level. Please think about that level of income and bringing up a family on that amount of money. This has very real consequences for children and families. For example, according to the UTK Boyd Center, low household income puts the goal of home ownership out of reach for many Tennesseans, and those who are renting are becoming increasingly cost-burdened. Representative Johnson mentioned the MIT Living Wage Study, which again recalculates the cost of food, childcare, healthcare, housing, transportation, and other basic needs in every county in the United States, providing a comprehensive measure of family needs. Representative Johnson was actually looking at some dated measures. The most up-to-date for Tennessee as a state, now again it differs by county, but a living wage for a single adult without children right now is $20.77 an hour. For families with one adult and one child, that is one earner family with one child, the living wage is $33.72 or $67,440 in a 40-hour, 50-week year. I encourage all of you to look at these figures for your own counties. Simply put, families cannot survive on either the minimum wage or existing low wages. And low wages define life for a majority of Tennessee families. 1/2 of all Tennessee households make under $64,000, and Tennesseans work more hours than in 47 other states. By comparison, 29 states have higher minimum wages than Tennessee, and more than 20 of them have raised those wages this year. There is some conversation that I will also say that 5%, we were asked, Representative Bain was asked some questions about minimum wage. Another measure to keep in mind is that 5% of the U.S. workforce, 8.4 million people, work 2 jobs or more. That's not a choice. That's by survival needs. We hear that in...
I'm sorry. We usually give 3 minutes apiece, but I'm going to go ahead and give you another minute. I just want to let you know, okay?
I appreciate that. I'm very close. We hear that increased wages will lead to more unemployment, but recent trends demonstrate that's not the case. Wages in Tennessee and the United States have increased simultaneous with low unemployment. Most of those moving to Tennessee are in their prime working years. Providing a living wage can help businesses attract and retain excellent Tennessee wages. Finally, businesses can raise wages. Corporate profits have increased dramatically from 2002, when those profits were $786 billion, to 2022, when those profits were $3.523 trillion. We can afford to raise the minimum wage. We cannot afford persistent poverty in Tennessee. Raising the minimum wage is the right thing to do for Tennessee children and families, for Tennessee workers, and for Tennessee businesses.
Okay, thank you, and thank you. Just stay where you are. We might have some questions for you, okay? We can do a Q&A. Do we have any questions for our guests today? Anyone? Okay, we don't have any, so thank you a lot for coming out today, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry about the delay. And we're going to go back into session. Representative Johnson, I've got a couple for you real quick. What was the website you mentioned a while ago where you can go back and look at?
I'll pull it up here.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, I've got it
And while
set
you're
in my
pulling
phone,
that up,
it's
what-
MIT wage calculator. You can just look up MIT wage
Okay,
calculator
got it.
or living wage.
Okay, got
It'll
it.
be there.
And one other question I guess I have, wonder why they haven't raised, do you have any idea why they haven't raised the federal minimum wage since 2009?
I do not, because they should.
I just wondered about that. Okay, and
I'm with you.
we have some questions for you, and the first, Chairman Faison.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Johnson, good to see you. This conversation, I've been here for 14 years. You've been here a lot too. This conversation comes up every year. Several years ago, the Brookings Institute did a study on this. And I just remember what we were talking about with Afton, and I wanted to turn y'all's attention to this. Brookings certainly couldn't be considered as some kind of right-wing outfit. They're centrist leftist. I mean, they're very centrist institute. It says, as computers replace humans for minimum wage jobs, it will force displaced workers to upgrade their skills in order to stay competitive. Part of my life, I love to travel, and I've been out west, and I've been in New England where minimum wage jobs are exorbitant. It is amazing when you walk into a fast food restaurant, when you walk into a grocery store, when you walk into a place that historically that you would typically see workers who are on minimum wage, all of the automated machines that have taken place and been installed. It's taken the personality out of so many of the businesses when you go there. And Brookings, what they're saying is, you go ahead and read the rest of this. The notion is when you force that type of pay, the businesses, they're not going to give up on theirs. The corporations, they're going to make their money. That's why they're in a business. That's why they're a corporation. They're just going to find a way to do it cheaper. And now we've turned to robots to do our work. And in fact, even though we don't have a huge minimum wage here in Tennessee, you go to any grocery store here and you're going to find out that they've cut out a lot of the workers. So I would just say, as we move forward with this conversation, we also need to look at what's happening in other states and realize that all of a sudden the jobs that people did have, they're losing those right now to a robot.
Okay, Representative Johnson.
Yeah, there's no question that there is some of that happening, and jobs are going to change as we continue to progress. There's no doubt about that. However, whatever job you're working at, whatever that is, you need to be, if you're working a hard 40-hour week, you need to be making a living wage. And currently, today, it's not happening. I want people to improve their skills, no question. I think that we talk about that up here a lot, and we're working towards that, and I appreciate that. However, everybody is not able to do that. And I would contend that anybody working that hard 40-hour a week should be able to support their family, take them to the doctor and pay their rent, and not have to worry about, are they going to be able to pay the utility bill, or do they have to buy prescription drugs? So, the reality is that we need to deal with this today, and what we're seeing in other states that have raised the wage, they are doing fine. It is working. Some of the horror stories that people said would happen are not happening. And I've had I've come with a wage bill that starts at a particular level and goes up $1 every year until you hit a certain amount. But the reality is, in looking at what it costs to live in Tennessee, I know it sounds like a big jump to folks, but the reality is that's what it costs to have a living wage in Tennessee.
Okay, Representative Sparks.
Thank you, Representative. These discussions I like. I think we may have some ideas, may not always agree, but I look at my own life, and Faison raised up some good points about the record investment that we have given in education. When I was working at Nissan in the factory, praying every day to quit that place, trying to go to college, going to college. Now we got a $50 million TCAT across the street. We've got a Motlow College that my mentor told me he was going to bring college to Smyrna. Never really believed him, but he made it happen. Bob Spivey. But I look at the opportunities that sometimes we didn't have, but at least I was able to buy my first home at 22 for $60,000. Housing catastrophe study that I was proud of, and a lot of the problem with housing is excessive government mandates, regulations, and taxes that make it less affordable. But this may be the only committee that we really talk about and dive into some of these issues. Going back to what Faison mentioned about automation, that's really scary. This AI, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's going to be bad. I was at MTSU conference, and there was a guy talking about AI. He said those that know AI will just be the ones replacing those that don't. Going back on the fast food, I'm a big fan of McDonald's. Whether you like the food or not, it's efficient. Government can learn from McDonald's. It's efficient. It's just, what you're going to get. They feed 1% of the population of the world. I didn't even know that till I heard that stat of the day. But if we went to this, in my opinion, you're going to see more automation. A friend of mine recently, he owned three Little Caesars. And he told me, we talked about minimum wage. He said all he would do, he would go, they got to where they can just go to an app, bypass all that, you get your pizza, boom. And the thing about McDonald's that not to try to be plugging in, but man, that gives, I read a stat, 1 in 8 young people, that's their first job. And you'll learn the customer service, you'll learn to work hard. And if you ever worked in fast food, I worked in fast food, it's hard work. Faison probably don't know hard work until he's worked in a factory like I have, and worked at Taco Bell, and worked for $1.50 an hour. He don't know those hard work. But I appreciate you engaging in this. I can't support your bill, but I always support the discussion. Thank you.
Representative Johnson.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that the discussion is critically important, because the majority of Tennesseans do support raising the wage. Everybody, granted, everybody doesn't agree on what that wage should be, but all parties, have been polled in Tennessee together, and everybody does support raising the wage. But however, I want to be realistic about what it costs to live in Tennessee, and I also want to be realistic about, you go into a McDonald's, and by the way, I worked at Long John Silver's, Burger King, and Rack Trust B. But you go into those places, and there's as many older folks working there as there are teens. As I said, there are more 55-plus-year-olds working for lower wages, minimum wage, than there are teenagers today. That's...
Okay, thank you. Chairman Faison, your name was called. Do you want to comment? Okay, thank you. You know, one thing I've thought about too, and I don't know if they'll ever do it or not, but I've always thought it should be 2 or 3 tiered, because if you're a teenager working in fast food or whatever, then, or if you're a 30-year-old or a 35-year-old that's got a family, it would be a different rate. I always thought that might be the answer at some point, to have a lower rate for those first-time or workers that are first going into the job market, and then a higher rate for those people that, you know, have a family supporting that. But that's just me, but I don't know if we'll ever get there or not. But anyway, do we have any other questions for the sponsor? Okay, if not, we're going to be voting on House Bill 2602. All in favor say aye. All opposed? No. I'm sorry, the noes have it, and the bill died, but thank you for your work on this. Okay, yeah, okay, great, thank you, yeah. Okay, that moves us to House Bill 2340.